recap. Okay, on last week. Oh, no, not last week, not the week before. Yeah, it's some time back. The last content that we had, okay, was unemployment for my H1 students. Yeah. Okay, so unemployment, I just run you all through the memory lane. What about unemployment for those who were present? Okay, what do you all still remember about unemployment? What concepts were covered in unemployment? Close this. For those who are here, the two boys. The girls can also participate. Right? Different types of unemployment, such as... For the new students, you can also try to participate. Okay, by typing out. It's the willingness to try, huh? So what are the different types of unemployment? Okay, good D. We have structural, cyclical. What's the last one? What's the last one? Yes, frictional. Okay, what else was covered in the session? Girls? Okay, you guys, you all can also participate. What else other than these three? If not, I have to ask people to unmute already. Right, consequences of unemployment. Someone mentioned consequence. Right, so make sure you are familiar with the consequence to consumer, producer, and government. Right? Okay, I covered this earlier on. And causes will be the different types. Yep, causes are the different types. Causes, they are used interchangeably. And lastly, we have policies, right? Briefly touch on policies. Okay, so this week onwards, I'll be emphasizing on policies. Okay, so for cyclical, we primarily use demand side policies. Structural will be supply side. Yeah, okay, so I will emphasize more starting on from next week onwards on fiscal, monetary, supply side, and exchange rate. So today, I don't think we'll be moving on with a quiz. Okay, I will go straight to what we want to cover today on the multiplier process. So today we'll be covering multiplier. Okay, so for my H1 students, okay, I will cover multiplier. If your school covered circular flow, there is no need. Okay, circular flow has been removed from your syllabus. Okay, so no need to know. So some of the multiplier concepts, because different schools or different H1 schools they cover multiplier slightly differently. Okay, so I'm going to adhere to the more strict approach. I will be covering multiplier in depth. Okay, so these are the 4 key objectives that I will be covering, and we will probably be ending up with a time practice. It's a short time practice. So today I hope by 10:45 we should be good to go. So for your learning objective, you'll be looking at definition of multiplier, your components of your multiplier, or rather it's actually diagram first. I will show the diagram first. After that I'll go through the components and assumption. And lastly, the factors that affect your size of multiplier. So for the new students, if you haven't received the guidebook, okay, you can just take down notes on your foolscap paper. Okay, your guidebook should be on the way. Okay, for the existing students who have the guidebook, okay, I will be guiding you on what are the notes to take on. Alright? Okay, so with this, okay, I'd like you all to move on to definition. Page 164. One second, where is my notes? I have too many screens and I am actually kind of confused. Where are my stuff? Here. Okay, 164. Okay, is everyone at page 164? Yep, so we can see that your multiplier, okay, measures how much your real national income changes due to an initial change in your autonomous. Please cancel this out. Not consumption, expenditure. Okay, so your expenditure could be any form of C, I, G, and X minus M. They have to be autonomous. So I'm just curious, okay, can you all differentiate between what is autonomous? Did your school use the concept of autonomous? I know Ravati confirm have. The rest I don't. Because I'm using your school note. The rest? Has the concept of autonomous been covered? Okay, so if autonomous wasn't used, later on I will address what's autonomous. Okay, and the opposite of autonomous is induced. Okay, so I'll show you what's the difference between autonomous and induced. So in a nutshell, okay, today our whole idea behind today's lesson is this. Okay, you realize that in our answer keys, okay, I will have the simplified multiplier process, right? If you read through, you see that there are multiple cycles of spending and respending, right? So today we want to expand out the entire step 5 of the ADAS and look out for the multiplier process. So your multiplier simply tells you, okay, if you look at the definition, if you put it into an expression, this is how it looks like. Your change in your real national income is equals to multiplier multiplied by change in your aggregate demand. So this is what we'll be learning today. Okay, we're looking at the magnifying effect of an initial change in AD, okay, on your R and Y. And the magnifying effect does not necessarily means that it is going one direction. I put delta sign here. Delta means that it can be plus or minus. Okay, likewise, when there is a fall in AD, it will lead to a multiple fall in your real national income. Okay? So later on, I will go through some of the mechanics of your multiplier. Okay, I'm going to explain how does the full multiplier process comes into the picture. And yes, okay, and the components of your multiplier in a short while. Okay, so with this, okay, let us move to the diagram illustration. Okay, so please join me in this drawing activity. Okay, I'm going to guide you all together. Okay, how to make sense of this. Okay, so this is your aggregate supply. Okay, so you often see in our answer keys when we illustrate macro goals that, okay, this is your initial AD, okay, and your initial real national income. So I don't know whether you all still remember that whenever you see our answer key, you see that there are multiple shifts like this. Okay, AD 0 prime, Y 0 prime, okay, and shift smaller, AD 0 prime prime, Y 0 prime prime, and lastly you dot everything, AD 1 and Y1. Okay, so you will often see this in our answer key, and I will explain to you what is the significance of this. So today I will be going through the full multiplier process. For my H1 students, you don't really need to use it, okay, but it's to understand the principles behind that. Why are there multiple shifts? Okay, so before I start, can I have a quick show of hands? Who can cycle here? Not to embarrass you. Okay, so there are some that can't cycle, sure. Okay, but if you understood cycling, okay, then you probably can understand multiplier well. If not, okay, you can relate to swimming, also can. I believe if you cannot cycle, you sure can swim. Okay, so the whole idea behind multiplier process is this. You're on a bike, right? Your bike will be static. if you don't do any action. Agreed? But once you take the first step on the bike, it will propel you forward. Agreed? So if you don't take the first step, you're not going anywhere. But if you take the first step, you realize that you're going to be propelled forward. And would you stop immediately? Okay, you will still be propelling forward, but at a slower and slower rate. And for my science students here, you realize that this is probably due to what? Physics, right? Friction or whatever. Okay, but in economics, we can liken the first step, okay, as the initial spending. And okay, the propelling forward as your induced spending. And all your induced spending will come to an end. Okay, and I will show you in a short while how does it comes into the picture. So for those who cannot cycle, swimming is the same. You do breaststroke, right? Okay, you pull the first time. Okay, you are going to propel forward. And will you stop immediately? You probably won't. You'll still be propelling. You'll still be gliding. But you'll eventually come to a stop. Okay, so this is the idea behind multiplier. So scary, my light suddenly flashed. Okay, so with this, okay, I'm going to introduce some key concepts behind multiplier. Later on in your practice question, you probably will see that. Okay, so with this, okay, I would want you all to move on to here. So we can see, we normally use your multiplier, okay, we call this K. Okay, so your size of your multiplier is inversely related to which? What thing? Or what component? Do you all still remember? Type it out. Okay, so your size of your multiplier is inversely related to your marginal propensity to withdraw. So I will be introducing a lot of marginal propensity concepts. Okay, later on, okay, I will explain in a short while. Okay, so I'll just introduce all the key terms first. Okay, please take notes. Okay, so your size of your multiplier is inversely related to your marginal propensity to withdraw. Okay, so the lesser the withdrawal, the higher the size of multiplier. Okay, so in a two-sector economy, okay, it will be marginal propensity to save. Three-sector economy, marginal propensity to save and tax. And four-sector economy, marginal propensity to save, tax, and import. Okay, so I'll explain all this in a while. Okay, and you also realize that there's also another important expression that I want to share with you. Okay, your MPW together with your MPC is also, it will be equals to 1. Okay, so all this I'll explain in one shot. So first of all, let us look at the definition page. Okay, what are all the MPs? Okay, especially for my H2 students, okay, you want to know the definition really well because it can be tested. My H1 students don't really need to know this. Okay, or understanding is good enough. Alright, so you can see the full MPs down here. MPC, MPS, MPT, MPM. So remember the concept of marginal propensity or marginal tells you the last dollar that you earn. Right, the last dollar. So they're telling you for the last dollar that you make, for every change in your income, okay, what is the change in your consumption? Okay, this is the last dollar. Okay, for every change in your savings, okay, or rather for every change in your last dollar of your income, okay, how much is going to change in your savings? Okay, and we can go on and on and on. Tax, imports. For every last dollar that you make, how much goes to imports? How much goes to taxation? Okay, and now okay, I'm going to go back here. Strange, yep. Why is it that your multiplier process is inversely related to your marginal propensity to withdraw? So if you recall when we did step 5, okay, in our ADAS analysis, do you recall the concept of of multiple cycles of spending and respending. Yes, do you all recall that? So if you realize that there are savings, savings means whatever that is not spent. When there is tax, it means that they are not spent. When there's imports, it means that they are not spent domestically. So all these are sources of withdrawals that will dampen or weaken the effect of respending. They will prevent respending from happening. So the whole idea behind what we are going to do today, okay, is for multiplier. Remember just now I covered earlier on in Choice 7, we are looking at the extent of your AD increasing. Okay, so if the size of your multiplier is significantly larger, we will experience a further rightward shift or a further leftward shift as compared to a country with small multiplier size. Okay, so we're looking at the extent of your AD shifting. Is shift right or shift left by how much? Okay, so you can liken multiplier like your gear. Okay, if you are on gear 6, okay, you step on the bicycle, okay, it can propel you a lot more than gear 1, right? Make sense? Okay, especially when you have momentum. Okay, so this is about cycling. Okay, so I don't know why I'm so obsessed with cycling these days. Yeah, but you can if you find the concept a bit too hazy, okay, you can relate to what I mentioned to it today. Okay, so you can see that all the presence of savings, taxation, and imports is going to dampen your multiplier size. It prevents respending from happening. So the next thing that I want to cover is this. Okay, and from here we can derive the size of the multiplier. And why is your multiplier size always bigger than 1? So what does this tell us? Okay, for my science student, okay, you probably can understand this better. Okay, so this expression tells us for the last change in your income, okay, last dollar. So in this case, the last dollar is $1. Okay, how much is going to go to withdrawal and how much is going to go to consumption? Right, so if this is your last dollar, right, how much is going to go to withdrawal and how much is going to go to your spending? So both of them sum up must be equals to 1 because you only make $1. Okay, so it has to be a fraction of, okay, $1 that is going to be allocated to withdrawal. Okay, that's going to be allocated to consumption. So by default, okay, both of these must be between 0 to 1. Okay, and therefore you realize that your size of your multiplier, the minimum, okay, is 1 because 1 over the maximum of MPW will give you 1, right? But if you realize that your MPW is significantly smaller, closer to the 0 range, then 1 over something really small will give you a huge multiplier. Okay? So another way to tabulate multiplier, okay, is to convert this. So we know, since we know MPW and MPC, the summation of these two, okay, will give you your additional $1. Okay, then your we can just flip things around. 1 minus MPC. Okay, and we can plug this here in the denominator. So you can also get your multiplier size here. Alright, is everyone good with all the illustrations so far? Okay, so for our H1 students, don't need to know them in depth. Okay, so the concept behind is important. Okay, so number 1, your multiplier size, okay, is always positive and it has to be greater than 1. Okay, so the size of your multiplier depends on the magnitude of your MPW. Okay, if your marginal propensity to withdraw is low, then it actually encourages more respending. Then okay, you have a huge multiplier size. Later on, we'll look at what are the components or the different components. It will come out as your practice question later. So back to the diagram. Okay, so I'm just going to use numerical figures to illustrate. Okay, how does your multiplier work here? Okay, so for instance, okay, there's going to be an increase in investment of, let's say, $100. right? So this is your autonomous spending. Oh, I forgot to illustrate autonomous spending. Autonomous expenditure or autonomous spending means, okay, spending that is independent of your income. Okay, whereas induced spending, later on we'll look at the shift in the green, orange, and the red arrow, or the red curves. We will see that all these are driven by induced consumption, okay, because of higher level of real national income. Okay, so this is the injection, your initial injection that is independent of real national income. Okay, so it could be a result of what? Lower interest rate. Okay, it could be a result of optimistic outlook on the economy, whatever components that affect I, that is independent of income level. So we can see that there's going to be an increase in income, your investment by $100. Now, how are we going to further illustrate this? Okay, we can see that when there's an increase in investment by $100, this will lead to a chain series of process, right? If you still recall the ADAS analysis, this will lead to unplanned inventory depletion. This will also lead to higher derived demand for labor, right? Because your inventory is depleting at a faster rate. Okay, producers will have to step up on their production. There's a higher derived demand for labor, and this leads to higher household income. So this is the catch. Okay, so the initial spending of $100 will translate to $100 of household income. Household income to additional people or resources that are hired to produce the additional goods and services. So now my question to all of you are science students mainly, yeah? Okay, this is a science class. So remember, there's an increase of income by how much? How much does income goes up? Can you all type out? So the initial spending was increased in $100. And we realized that all this ends up as household income, right? So how much is income going to increase? Come on. Okay, it's going to go up by the same amount. Exactly the same amount. Now, we realize that when household receives more income, then this will start to trigger the multiplier process. Why? Okay, because we can see that they are going to obey what we have discussed earlier on, right? Okay, so now, okay, let us make certain assumptions. Okay, so your MPW, let's assume to be 0.5. So by default, what is the size of your MPC if MPW is 0.5? 0.5. Yeah? Okay, so you can see here. So it simply tells you for every $1, one additional dollar that you make, half of them will go to spending and the other half will go to withdraw. 50 cents will go to spending. 50 cents will be leaked out of the economy. So now remember, I have mentioned that, okay, in a 4-sector economy, okay, this is your MPW, right? So now let's make certain assumptions. Okay, so MPS is 0.1, 0.2, 0.2, and this will sum up to be 0.5. Agreed? So now I want you all to key in, okay, with a increase in $100 of income, how much is going to go to savings? How much is going to go to tax? And how much is going to go to imports in one single sentence? Now, when there's an increase in $100 of income, how much is going to go to savings, tax, and import? Okay, Ravati, good. At least, nope. I'm not sure how you get this figure. It doesn't work out very well. boys? Reina? So household income raised by $100. Okay, Dylan, good. Good, Reina, very good. Mr. Sir? Okay, good. Alright, so we can actually see that out of $100, when household income increased by $100, okay, $10 will go to savings. Okay, 0.1 times 100, okay, will give you $10. Okay, 0.2%, okay, or rather 20% will go to taxes. For every increase in tax in your income by $100, $20 will be allocated to taxes. Likewise for import. Okay, so we can actually see this. Where is mine? Strange. Okay. Click the wrong thing, so sorry. So we can see that as a result of MPS, MPT, and MPM, there will be increase in savings of 20, increase in taxes of 20. Is it 10, 20, 20, right? 10, 20, 20. Increase in imports of 20. So all these are leaked out. Okay, they are prevented from respending. So my last question is, how much is left for respending? How much is left out of this initial $100 of household income? Okay, good. Zach, good. Ravati, please type it out. Okay, how much is left? Good, Reina. Good, Alice. So we can see that the remaining $50 goes to respending. See? So this respending is triggered by the initial increase in income. So you have to differentiate. Okay, what is the trigger? Okay, and what is the reaction, or what is the non-trigger? So this is the outcome of the trigger. Because remember the example that I used was bicycle, right? The first step is your investment expenditure, and your momentum, okay, is your induced consumption. All right. So increase in $50. So you see that when there's an increase in induced consumption of $50, this will trigger a secondary round of unplanned inventory depletion, right? Because there's higher household spending of $50. Okay, and this will result in another round of higher derived demand for labor, and another round of higher household income. Okay, so this additional induced spending of $50 will end up as household income of $50. And they will go through the same process, right? So 0.2 of this $50 will go to savings, 0.2 will go, 0.1 of this $50 will go to savings, 0.2 will go to tax and import, the remaining will be respent. So the whole idea is because of the presence of withdrawal, your induced consumption will go lower and lower and lower for every time period. And therefore, we don't need to sum up, we don't need to keep going on this process. All we need to is sum them up. Right? So, quick question. How much is your real national income going to increase as a result of the initial spending of $100? So the initial spending was $100. Can you all tabulate the overall real national income? If you have listened carefully, you should have gotten the answer at the definition page. I just walk you all down the memory lane again. Remember this expression? Your real national income is equals to your size of your multiplier times the initial spending, right? So can we use that here? Can not? Change in your real national income is equals to size of your multiplier multiplied by the initial change in your AD. So do we have the initial change in your AD? Are you good, Ravati? It's $100, right? And what is the size of the multiplier? What is the size? Can we calculate the size of the multiplier? Dylan, yeah, can you calculate the size of K and give me the overall answer? Not 100K, yeah? Remember just now I already told you all how to calculate size of a multiplier. The size of a multiplier is 1 over your marginal propensity to withdraw. So your marginal propensity to withdraw is 1 over 0.5. 0.5 decimal. Decimal. Remember, your size of your multiplier cannot be lesser than 1. Minimum must be 1. Oh, okay. So in this case, we can see that... Why do I keep going on to the wrong page? It's irritating. Okay, so your size of your multiplier, can you all try one more time? All of y'all. What is the size of the multiplier? Key this in right now. Right, so your size of the multiplier will be 1 over 0.5. It will give you 2. Okay, so your change in your total real national income will be $200. Okay, so you can see that because of an initial spending of $100, this will lead to a multiple increase in your real national income by more than the initial amount. Everyone clear so far? So when do we use the full multiplier process? Okay, so for my H1 students, you don't need to. All you need to is to understand, understand what is the process behind that. Okay, for my H2 students, there is a separate essay question, in the H2 folder. Yeah, enjoy the present for all of for you. Please enjoy the present. For my H1 students, no need to know. All right, so no need to know the full multiplier process, but having an understanding is good enough. Okay, so with this, I'm going to move on to factors affecting your size of your multiplier. Right, this one must know. Okay, this one that is regardless of H1 and H2. Don't know means die already. Okay, page 60. Page 63, right? I think I opened up the wrong one. Okay, factors affecting size of your multiplier. So you can see that these little 3 buggers are your culprit. Okay, there's a 4th one though. Okay, MPC also plays a part. Okay, later on in the practice question, you may want to look out for factors that affect your MPC. Okay, so I'm just going to illustrate. Okay, how are we going to use one of these factors? Alright, so you realize that MPS is going to affect your size of your multiplier, right? So when people are saving more, it means that they are spending lesser, and this will suppress your respending. Okay, so one of the factors that you actually see is what we call social security system. In your school notes, they often label this as CPF, Central Provident Fund. Okay, because of mandatory savings in Singapore, because we need to set retirement needs in the future, set aside retirement needs in the future. Okay, this prevents us from spending right now. Okay, and therefore sometimes you see that Singapore has a small multiplier size. Okay. Likewise, another term that you often see is openness of economy. Because of the nature of a small open economy, Singapore does not produce a lot of goods. Okay, that's why there is a high demand for import. Okay, for every income that we make, a high amount will go out to as leakages to acquire import. So MPM value is going to be high for Singapore. And therefore, your size of your multiplier is going to be small. So size of your multiplier is normally related to fiscal policy. They come out as brothers and sisters. Okay, you want to look out for limitation of fiscal policy. Alright, so when you study size of multiplier, make sure you link it to fiscal policy limitation. So this concept is not difficult so long as you understood what is going to go out there is not going to be respent. And you are going to have good examples for this. So it's going to be highly contextualized. Later on in the practice question, you'll see that it's not going to be Singapore. You have to deduce that yourself. Clear? So, with this, I am going to move. Oh yes, so for the other factors that I didn't cover, if there's anything that you don't understand in your school notes, not sure, I'm not going to cover one by one. So you just take a snapshot, send it to me. I will address this privately. So with this, I'm going to move on to exam purpose. So for my H2 students, you probably need to know the full multiplier process. My H1 students, understanding is good enough. Factors that affects your size of your multiplier will be our key concept that we want to utilize today in your practice question. And like what I've covered earlier on in the SOI 7, state of economy is also a sister concept together with size of multiplier. Size of multiplier tells us the extent of your multiplier shifting to the right or to the left. State of economy tells us where it's happening. Is it at the classical region or is it at the Keynesian region? Oh, I forgot. Very important. Very, very important. Why did I forget that? Multiplier. You have to illustrate at the Keynesian region. This is where you exploit the full multiplier or the full reverse multiplier process. So some of the students ask me, why can't it be at the intermediate or classical region? If you draw, like what I've mentioned earlier on, if you exploit your Keynesian region and you move up to your classical region, then this is what we call the state of the economy. So when your resources are fully exploited, any further increase in your AD will lead to higher inflation, and a lesser extent of increase in your real national income. So you can see that the extent of increase in your real national income from Y0 to Y1 is significantly smaller than at the Keynesian region. So we are going to assume that the black arrows is going to be the same magnitude as the blue and the red arrow. So you can see that there are differing gaps between them. Therefore, when you illustrate multiplier process, must draw at the Keynesian region. And multiplier does not necessarily mean that it's one-sided. Reverse multiplier can also happen. So you have to be comfortable in illustrating multiple falls in your real national income. Right? So with this, let's go for a quick break. When you are back, turn on your webcam and we'll kickstart with our TP. Thank you. Right, everyone here, please check your lesson 18 folder. You should be seeing the table on Venezuela and Brazil. Okay, for my H2 students who are present, please use the H1 folder for this. If you do not see please sound out if you are seeing the same question paper. Okay, especially new students, okay, please let me know. If you have problem accessing this question paper, also let me know. Lesson 18. Okay, Dylan noted. Ravati noted. Zach noted. Miss Lin. H1 have? Okay, great everyone, thank you. So it's a very small question, 5 marks. Okay, so I'm not going to give any tips because it's a really small question, has nothing to give about. If not, I might as well do it for you, right? So here you are going to have the next 5 minutes to yourself to finish this. 5 minutes. Okay? Good luck. Let's go. Okay, start writing. Alright, that's it. Stop writing. Thank you. Time's up. 5 minutes is up. And with that, okay, let us quickly run through the answers. So give me a second. Let me activate the answers right now. Where is it? So while I'm activating the answers, okay, I'd like you all to type out one challenge that you have encountered when you are doing this. Type it out now. What is one particular challenge that you find yourself struggling with? Okay, some of you all brought up the not sure whether which factor to use. Anything else that I need to know? Thanks, Zach. Identifying the components of the size of the multiplier. Okay, great. So the concept that is tested here is clearly size of multiplier, right? Okay, and we can actually see that. Now let's work on the size of multiplier. Remember, every case studies will test you on a specific concept. Okay, so this question has been very blatant. They tell you up front that they want size of a multiplier. So let's do a quick recap. Okay, your size of your multiplier is equals to what? We just went through this earlier on. What are the components? One over MPW. But if you look at the extract, do you see any W's around here? Have not? Not directly, right? So now let's explore further. Other than MPW, are there any other components that we need to know about? Okay, 1 minus MPC. So are there any things that suggest as MPC? Maybe? Do you see that? Yes? Okay, so this is what? This is indicative that at the consumption level, right? As a percentage of GDP. So we are supposed to infer from all this. On top of that, okay, are there any other things that suggest that we can use from the extract? Remember, we have 1 over MPS plus MPT plus MPM, right? So out of the remaining, okay, which one do you think can be used here? Out of the remaining 4 rows. Okay, we can see that imports are probably a good choice. We can link it to MPM here, right? So whenever you encounter a question like that, if they don't tell you directly, you have to dive deeper. And this is the concept behind 1 over MPW. Okay, so we can deduce the imports, or we can subtract 1 minus MPC. Okay, this is what we have covered earlier on. So with this, okay, maybe I will ask Ravati, would you like to unmute yourself? Okay, explain whether you would expect the size of the multiplier to differ.
The Venezuela one is larger than the Brazil one.
Alright, how is that so?
Cause the household consumption is higher for Venezuela
Okay.
than the equation.
Okay. Is that all? 1 second. You know, it's not easy to deal with a terrorist at home. You know, when I close the door and someone demands their presence in the aircon room. You all can hear, right, just now? Can you all hear the woofing? So that is her unreasonable demands. And I'm held hostage to that because I'm recording this. If not, you'll hear more barkings. And the future batches will hear more barkings. Yeah, so I will find out a way how not to deal with terrorists. I'm so sorry, Ravati. I got cut. So you mentioned that MPC, right? Okay, there's the size of MPC is significantly high. Okay, and what about imports? Can we deduce the imports? Anything about imports? What can we compare about Brazil and Venezuela in terms of imports?
The withdrawal is smaller.
Right, for Venezuela, right? Okay, so MPM is likely to be lower, and therefore, okay, your size of your multiplier is going to be larger for Venezuela. So for everyone, for people who adopted this line of thought, good. Okay, but there's one more word, okay, that was not present or not addressed. Right? This is the key word here. Whether. So especially when you see the word whether, okay, you have to ask yourself whether there's a possible antithesis, okay, in the question. Okay, so what form of antithesis are we supposed to construct? Okay, I'm going to show in a short while. So if you miss this out, it's okay. You probably won't lose out a lot. Okay, but when the command word changed to comment whether, then that one confirm have antithesis one. Confirm have. Alright, so with this, okay, let us look at the answer together. So the answer has been uploaded, okay, in the LMS. Okay, so you can take a look at that. Okay, if not, I will drag it across down here. Right, so I've actually I've made the explain whether and italics. So remember to use the antithesis approach. Okay, so you want to illustrate what is multiplier. Okay, the multiplier is the reciprocal of MPW, okay, which is the sum of MPS, MPT, and MPM. If you don't have this, it's also fine. Okay, but I would like to see that you identify consumption expenditure and import expenditure, okay, as the key evidence. Okay, this is must. You must state this too, that you are going to use this too. If you didn't define what is multiplier, I think it's okay. This is the criteria. Right, so you're supposed to suggest that MPW is lower, okay, as compared to Brazil due to the lower level of imports. Okay, you can suggest that MPM may be lower or MPC is higher, okay, as compared to Brazil. And therefore, okay, the size of your multiplier is likely to be larger. Okay, so based on these two case evidence, MPC is higher, MPM is lower, then okay, the justification is size of multiplier is larger. Actually, thinking of which, you have to state that MPW is the reciprocal. Okay, this is important. Okay, if not, you wouldn't be able to deduce the size of multiplier. So I'm just going to U-turn again. Okay, you need to state what is multiplier. Okay, it is inversely related to MPW, or you can state a reciprocal. Yeah, and thinking of which, these two probably they are optional because you're going to introduce them under thesis 1 and thesis 2. Okay, so remember, okay, state, okay, what is the multiplier. So I'm so sorry. Okay, I just take a good look again. Yeah. Okay, so you don't need to identify import and consumption immediately. Okay, but you need to state what is multiplier. So based on what we see in MPM and MPC, okay, your size of multiplier is likely to be larger. And the antithesis. Okay, so this is the brownie point or the bonus here. So what could have illustrated otherwise? Okay, so the antithesis is asking you what could have illustrated otherwise. Okay, what could prevent you to reach the outcome that the size of multiplier is greater in Venezuela as compared to Brazil. Okay, so this is what the antithesis is asking. Okay, so you can see that you do not have the actual data, okay, of these three. Okay, all these three, or rather, what we have seen in the question, they are all inferred, but they didn't tell you the specific data. Okay, and therefore, okay, we cannot know, okay, what is the size of the multiplier. So such questions are fairly popular, okay, in the sense that from the data analysis perspective, okay, they give you some data and ask you to infer. Okay, I've seen such questions before. Okay, this I guarantee you will definitely not be the last time you see that. Okay, so for my H2 students especially, okay, circular flow is equally important. So please catch up with the H2 folder. For my H1 students, okay, this is good enough. All right. So with this, okay, if you have any questions for me, please stay back and ask me. Okay, if not, okay, for students who don't have a direct access to me, you can drop a comment under the comment segment. And I'm going to sign off.